You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and just like any other time, we have another amazing guest. Today, we're talking to Keith Gillispie. He is a U.S. Marine veteran and founder and CEO of REI Automated, and he is also an investor who has built his business around systems, freedom, and helping others get inside the real estate business. You can go to the website, also be in show notes, but it is reiautomated.io. I'm going to cut to the chase and say, first and foremost, Keith, thank you for being on the show today, man. How you doing?
Absolutely. I'm doing better all the time, brother. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, sir. So kind of tell us a little bit, just from the beginning, what did serving the Marine Corps help teach you about not just discipline, but also leadership and running a business?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think that it taught me to value my time, because that's the one thing that you don't have when you're active duty. The Marines is not a 9 to 5 where you can punch in and punch out on the clock. You know, you have late nights, you have weekends, you're going overseas, and you're bringing home work with you. And so building a business while being active duty, yeah, it took discipline. Yes, it took leadership. But more than anything, there was a huge time constraint. That was the biggest hurdle I think that I learned. Took me 4.5 years, full honesty. It took me 4.5 years to build my business while I was active duty. And realistically, you know, if I had not been active duty, it would have been maybe a year, not even a year. We're able to get our students, our clients of REI Automated really up to speed, typically within 8 months. And so a lot of the principles that the Marines taught me, though, you know, slow is smooth and smooth is fast, is one of the things. It's like when you're clearing a building and you have your breacher and you have one man and you have two men, and if you all have to remember what each person's duties are, because if one man gets shot, two men now becomes one man, and somebody needs to drag that guy out. And the same thing is true in real estate. Just fortunately, you know, if you make a mistake, you don't lose your life, you just lose a bunch of money. Nonetheless, those principles are the same. And how we teach Marines is really like dummy proof. It's paint by the numbers. It's follow simple instructions. You know, we have a rule, we have a law. And that's instant and willing obedience to all lawful orders. So it's kind of like, hey, you don't really need to think for yourself. You just need to do what you're told type of deal, because somebody who's been in the Corps longer than you has already been there before. And so I very much take that same approach in my real estate investing when I'm teaching education, when I'm teaching systems or software or coaching people. It's really broken down very simply, paint by the numbers. And honestly, I have the Marine Corps to thank for that methodology.
When you think for a minute or for a moment, there's a lot of businesses that you can tap into. What made you choose real estate, and what stepped out for you that, you know, this could be a great opportunity?
Easy. Statistically, there's more millionaires made each year in the real estate sector than in any other sector. Stocks don't compare, you know, mutual funds don't compare. AI even doesn't compare. Technology doesn't compare. Real estate has the highest probability. I'm all about probability and statistics. You know, like it has the highest statistical probability of turning you into a millionaire. And that's honestly why I got into it. At the time, I was about 19, almost 20 years old, and I was in the Marines, and actually it was my squad leader who gave me what many of us real estate investors call lovingly the Purple Bible. It's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, written by a man named Robert Kiyosaki. And I read that book, and quite literally the very next month, I opened up my real estate investing business with my wife, because he talked about real estate and finding financial freedom through that, and how basically everything that he had been taught his entire life was a lie. And it reframed the glasses, the perspective that he looked at life at, you know, through. And man, that book was, and is for thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, it was a life-changing book to read. And that's the reason why I got started in real estate.
Once again, listen to Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our special guest today, Keith Gillispie. You go to his website, is reiautomated.io. My next question for you is, when you reflect on your first deal in real estate, what was something that you learned from that deal that you still carry with you today?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the slow is smooth and smooth is fast idea, where on that first deal, Shemaiah, I was slated to make over six figures on my first deal ever. And I ended up walking with $2,000. And the reason for that is because I goofed up really bad and I skipped steps and I did not do a proper due diligence. And my value of the house was wrong. My estimation of the repairs was wrong. My timeline was wrong. How much money I raised was wrong. Man, I'm here to tell you just about everything that I did on that whole freaking deal was wrong. And so I learned two things really. And the first was slow is smooth as fast. And, the Marines taught me that, but I hadn't really put that into practical application in my real estate investing business. And this is true not just for real estate investors, but it's true in life, in entrepreneurship. It is a principle that you can live your life by. And then the second was, you really have to show up prepared. And one of the things that I learned is now rule number 2 in my business, which is everyone's full of poop until money hits the bank. And so people can talk a really big game and you can maybe rely on them, but until the deal is done, man, do not wager bets on that. Double check, make sure that you have cross references, make sure that you don't just have a primary plan, but you have a secondary and a tertiary plan. Mike Tyson is fairly famous for saying everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's kind of the same thing. Everyone has a plan in real estate or in entrepreneurship until something goes wrong. Then when something goes wrong, you better be able to change, pivot quick, fast, and in a hurry. Otherwise, you're going to go underwater, because time is money. And every single month that you're holding on to a house, not only is that not an asset, it's a liability to you, but it's an expensive one. And this, if you treat it at real estate investing, if you treat it as a hobby, dude, it's probably one of the most expensive hobbies there is. It costs you a lot of money every single month to hold on to these houses. And so you really have to get in and get out of the deal. And you can only do that efficiently when you've planned out exactly what is happening on what timeline. You've covered your ground. You make sure that you have contingencies in place, because it's not if something goes wrong, it's when something goes wrong. You had better be able to adjust. Otherwise, you're going to have your investors to account for.
You have invested across 34 states. What have you learned in developing not just your systems, but to your point earlier, I would say also keeping calm under pressure? Yeah.
So I started investing virtually when I was stationed in Hawaii. I was stationed in Hawaii, but I wasn't in Hawaii. I was in China. I was in Japan. I was in Guadalcanal. I was in American Samoa. I was in Tarawa. I was in all these different Polynesian countries, overseas, Europe, Canada. I mean, I was all over the place. I was never freaking home, dude. Over 8 years that I was active duty, I was overseas 13 different times. And so I don't know if you know this, but Hawaii is really expensive real estate. And believe it or not, my first and my favorite virtual, we call it an MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area, is Bexar County, San Antonio. And that was my very first, back in 2020, that was my first virtual market we opened up. And so my cost per acquisition in Hawaii, how much did I need to spend in order to get a deal? It was $11,600. And it was either May or June of 2020, I opened up in Bexar County, Texas. And immediately I cut that from $11,600 to about $2,100. And I did 3 deals back to back to back within the same month. And I made more money in that 1 month than I had the previous 4 or 5 months. I was going through a dry spell, because hits, real estate deals are far and few between in Hawaii, whereas in San Antonio, Texas, there's a lot. It's a gentrification area. And so I kind of got the bug, and I went from one metropolitan statistical area, one metro, let's just call it a city, from one city to 33 cities to 66 cities, to 120 cities, to 250 cities, to 380 cities, all across 34 states. It was really across 50 states, all 50 states I was marketing in, but I've only done deals in 34 states. So what I learned from that, man, is that there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs that hold us back, that we have this glass ceiling, we have this perception that we can't do this if we can't go walk the property, or that for some reason it's ill-advised or irresponsible, or we're going to miss something. And I'm here to tell you that is a self-limiting belief. There is not one iota of it is true, because if you really humble yourself and you think about, like, who are you to walk this property and point out every little thing, who should you have? If you could hire anybody in the nation, who would you bring along with you to go tear apart a house and tell you everything that's wrong with it? Well, you're going to bring a home inspector, of course. So when I live in Hawaii and I'm buying a house in San Antonio, who am I going to have walk the house? Well, a home inspector, of course. Who's going to list the house? Well, a realtor, of course. Or if I'm going to rent it, who's going to manage the? Well, a property manager, of course. These are all people who are way more qualified than we as the real estate investor or the business owner are. So we need to rely on our team. And if you think, well, if it needs to get done right, then I've got to do it myself, that tells me that you have a leadership problem, that you are not good at hiring, managing, holding accountable, firing. Whether there's a lot of different things that go into choosing the right realtor, choosing the right property management company, but you have to put those things in place, and you would have to put them in place in your hometown anyway. And so what it did for me, man, is it really solidified my processes, because if it works when I'm overseas and I'm investing in an area that I've never, the furthest that I ever invested from Hawaii was Maine. If you're looking at a map of the United States, Hawaii's down in the bottom left and Maine's in the top right. You cannot geographically get further away. It was like 5,000 miles. You can't be further away and stay in the United States. And so what that taught me, man, was if you are willing to go out in a virtual market and invest where it makes sense, because a lot of us don't live in an area where it makes sense to invest. Where I live here in Florida, right now, the Florida market is really struggling. It does not make sense for me to invest the way that I do right now. My primary market is Syracuse, New York. It very much makes sense to invest there. I love San Antonio, and I invest there. It doesn't matter. But if you are willing to build your systems on a virtual level, when you get the opportunity to buy in your local area, those same exact systems are going to be what runs your business. So you're not there having to handicap yourself and micromanage your contractors, your home inspectors, your title company, the systems are already there and work so that you can literally live. I like living a laptop lifestyle. Me and my wife travel about once per month. And so everything that I do can be run from my phone, laptop, or desktop computer. It needs absolutely zero. 100% of my team members, we have a staff of 10. 100% of us are virtual, and 100% of our deals are virtual. And so that's taught me a lot in how to systemize and automate my business.
This is a really good episode to share. Just FYI for our listeners, our viewers. Once again, listening and watching us on Refocused Radio, go to our YouTube. I told you I got to do better at plugging in our YouTube channel, but it's growing like rapid fire. Go to our YouTube at youtube.com and put the @ symbol, Refocused Network. Want to say once again, last week we hit the big 50,000K. So I want to shout out everybody who's been watching us and supporting us for all these years since 2017, because we were on the radio in 2019. So we first started this project at Barbershop in 2017. So I think I said 15. I meant to say 17 if I said that wrong. But once again, talking to our guest today, Keith Gillispie. Go to his website, REI Automated.io. I'm glad you shared that insight with your team and your staff, because that is amazing that you're able to not just trust them to do their part, but to be able to do it where you're not inside an actual building in the office. So I want you to kind of touch on that trusting game, if you will. What was the culture that you tried to build with your team so that way, everyone's kind of self-governing themselves and doing their part?
Well, to be honest, that's the biggest thing that I miss the Marines. I've been out for 6 years now, almost 6 years. And the biggest thing is the camaraderie. It's the environment. And so I try to recreate that to the best of my ability. It's not possible, by the way. It's not possible. When you're in the mud, when you're rolling with these guys, when you're just, you're embracing the suck with Marines, it's totally a different level of camaraderie than in a virtual, cushy desktop, keyboard warrior type of lifestyle. But we really have an amazing culture inside this small group of 10 people that work here. Here's what I would share, though, when it comes to recreating this. I don't know about you, but I look up to McDonald's. I don't like their food. It gives me gas and makes me fat, but their business model is absolutely outstanding. If you were to go there in San Antonio, Texas, to your nearest McDonald's, and I was to go here in Melbourne, Florida, to my nearest McDonald's, and we were to come back, we were to order Big Mac, right? We were to come back and we were to show it to each other, and we were to smell it, and we were to look at it, we were to taste it. It's going to come out looking the same, tasting the same, smelling the same. Well, why is that? It's because it's the same ingredients with the same process, no matter where you are in the nation, the world, for that matter, actually. And so here's the thing. We need to do that in our business as well. Whether I'm doing it or you're doing it or Miss Kay's doing it or Ryan's doing it, whoever's doing the task, there needs to be an SOP. When you think about dude, again, I've literally studied McDonald's. Their pickles have to be within 3 millimeters diameter. You can't have a huge pickle and then a small pickle. They're all going to be within 3 millimeters. Same thing with how much mayonnaise. They don't trust you to squeeze the mayonnaise. They actually put the mayonnaise in a little squeezer container, and everybody gets one squeeze because that squeeze is the identical amount, grams, like weight-wise, of mayonnaise, no matter where you are in the country. The temperature that they sear the burgers and the time that those burgers are on temp is identical no matter where you are. So how I triage a seller needs to be the same as if Miss K triages the seller. How I determine my ARV, how I estimate my repairs, how I determine my entrance strategy and my exit strategy, how I go through the perfect presentation. My due diligence should be the same as Mel's due diligence. It doesn't matter who does the thing. It doesn't matter who builds the burger at McDonald's or which location you're at. They're all going to come out the same. And so what I've done, I call this the Mickey D's method. We need to take a Mickey D's method in every single seat in our business, regardless of how small the task is or how unimportant or important the task is. We need to strip everything down to the basics. And again, bringing from the Marines, brilliance in the basics. We have to strip this thing down to the basic. Here's the 3 elemental, the most elementary things that are necessary in this SOP. And we need to write that out. And then we need to record a video showing somebody. So I don't have to be there to train my staff members anymore at all whatsoever. At this point, I have a collection of about 500 videos total. Nobody has to watch 500 videos, but 500 videos total that runs the entire company. And so when I bring in somebody, I say, here's your 80 videos. Master these 80 of, this is your training. You don't have to watch me. You don't have to shout at me. Frankly, that's a waste of my time. You're going to watch these, and then every day we're going to spend about 30 to 60 minutes. You can ask me questions. We can refine the process, and we're constantly building those SOPs just a little bit better, a little bit tighter, a little bit more refined, because things are changing, right? And a year goes by, and that's an antiquated system now because we now have a better way of doing it. So we keep those SOPs up to date, and that's probably going to be the biggest thing that you can do in your business, again, regardless of if it's real estate investing or not. As an entrepreneur, if you really want to have a business that withstands the test of time, and let's define that as like 10 years or more. Any business that's been in existence for 10 years or more, which my business has, you are going to see that they have SOPs for every single task that is run by anybody in that company, to include the owner. This is like the quote unquote secret to a successful business, is systemizing your processes.
Once again, if you're not taking notes, make sure you find this episode, save it, and share it, because this is some really good details that we're getting from our guest today, Keith. Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Keith Gillispie. Go to his website, is reiautomated.io. And man, when you look and reflect on where you are in your business journey and where you started, and also where you would like to be in the future, what is your process in understanding your vision, your core values, and what's next for Keith?
So we go through, I have my core values written out. And in my opinion, the definition of core values is they must be written out and shared by all. And so if everybody in your organization doesn't know your core values, you don't have core values in your business. And if everybody cannot recite by memory your core values, then by definition, you haven't created a culture in your business. We have it written down and actually we recite it. I know how stupid and lame this sounds, but before we start every single business meeting, somebody says, our core focus is we empower residential real estate investors to build and scale a profitable business by implementing education systems and results. And then we have 6 core values, and we just popcorn around. Everybody says one core value, and then we get into our numbers, share our wins, and get on with the meeting. It's super fast. It takes 2 minutes, but for lack of a better term, we're indoctrinating our employees into this is how we run this organization. And if you don't share these core values, you need to get the heck out. I'm not saying that it's bad or you're a bad person, but I am saying you're a bad fit for the company. And so those are the core values that we have. I didn't share the core values, but I can if you want. That's how we run it, though, is those core values are really paramount in running our business. Man, there was I handled the second portion of your question, but the first part of your question was really what I wanted to dig into, and I've completely forgotten what was the first half of that last question.
Yeah, I'll kind of paraphrase it, but basically I was saying when you reflect on where you were and where you are now and the vision that you see that's next for Keith and your business for your core values, what do you see?
Yeah, so here's what I'll tell you. If I had known that it was going to be this hard, I probably wouldn't have started. And one of the things that one of my mentors teaches, he calls it the 2x3s, which is everything is going to be twice as hard, cost twice as much, and take twice as long as you originally anticipated. And so we've been in business now for 11 years, and man, I was just running full speed ahead, 100 miles an hour, changing direction so much early on. The first several years, I'd probably say first 6 or 7, maybe even 8 years of the business, we were going as fast as possible. I was burning the wick at both ends in my personal life, staying up late, getting up early, really putting in the time, right? And these days, I move a lot slower and with intense methodology. I'm talking like if it is not in perfect alignment with what I want and what I envision in the future, I say no to it. And I'm not saying perfect harmony, because the definition of harmony is 2 different notes that sound good together. I'm saying perfect alignment, which means unison. If it's not in perfect alignment with where I'm going, I say no. Because when we say yes to one thing, we say no to an infinite amount of other things. So if I say yes to helping this person do a deal, I'm saying no to my family during that time. I'm saying no to doing my own deal during that time. I'm saying no to building my own business during that time. So be really careful with what you say yes to. And so now I move a lot slower with some sincere intentionality of where I'm going in the future. And we're no longer course correcting and taking these massive direction changes these days. And it's because I've learned through the school of hard knocks that everything is going to take twice as long, cost twice as much, and be twice as hard as you originally anticipate. And so make sure that you're saying yes to the things that are really in alignment with what your core focus and what your core values are. Because when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to an infinite amount of others.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio and talking to our guest today, Keith Gillispie. Go to his website, REIAutomated.io. And since we've been talking about San Antonio, that's where this broadcast is on Radio Land. Military cities, what people will know San Antonio as. There's a lot of veterans here. not just in San Antonio, but across the great state of Texas. If you had words of encouragement, maybe a veteran or someone on active duty that will come across this episode in regards to entrepreneurship and everything you've learned in real estate, what will be something you will want to plant a seed for them to always remember if they decide one day to start their own journey? It's
going to be different for if you're active duty versus if you're a veteran. And so I'll actually have two different messages. For the people who are active duty, I'm gonna talk to you how you would want to be talked to, and that is nobody. Well, I realize that we're also airing, so I have to be careful how I say this, but nobody gives a hoot about your freaking excuses. Go out there and get stuff done. And so I was active duty. I had more excuses than everybody. I had 2 children under 2. I'm always overseas. I'm constantly bringing work home with me. Nonetheless, man, my kids were growing up without a father, and I needed to change that. I needed to come home. I needed to be present as a husband and as a father. Otherwise, I was going to lose my family. And so many Marines, so many active duty. I mean, the divorce rate is horrible in the United States military. It's absolutely terrible. And so your family, just remember that you can make all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, you don't have your family, it's all for nothing. It's all for nothing. And so make sure that you're keeping the most important thing. The most important thing, though, I believe that should be God first, and that should be your family second. And your excuses should be last. And so if you want to be there for your family, you actually have to be there, meaning be present, both physically and mentally. And it's going to be hard and it's going to suck, but you better embrace the suck and surround yourself with like-minded individuals who will support that journey, because it is a tough one. Now, if you're a veteran, man, our veterans, I feel like don't get enough love. And what I mean by that is by other veterans, like rally, support each other. I've got a couple of great dudes in my life. We call each other every weekend. We're texting each other constantly. And it's a huge encouragement to keep that brotherhood alive. That's super important. And again, having people that fit into this Venn diagram where they're also a veteran and a business owner. You can't have people who are just business owners, and you can't have people that are just veterans. You really need people who fit into the Venn diagram of both of those communities at the same time. Have 1 or 2 or 3 other of those people. Again, having a community and a support system is super important as you continue your journey as a real estate investor, as an entrepreneur. Having people who can kind of remind you of some of these things that we were taught in the military. I'm here to tell you the military set us up for success, at least most of us, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to principles, when it comes to teaching and instruction, and creating a culture, a community, holding people accountable to a high standard. These are all things that we can bring into our business, and you are set up for success. And so having those people around you is going to be really big. Make sure that you are feeding those relationships and you're leaning into them as the years go on. Don't become disconnected. Embrace it.
Well, once again, been listening and watching us online, I Am Refocused Radio. Go to our website, IamRefocusedRadio.com. Click the YouTube button. Link is right there on the homepage. It's real easy. We've been talking to our guest today, Keith Gillispie. Go to his website, REI Automated.io. Flat out of time, but like always want to say to you, Keith, first and most, thank you for your service, and always thank you for your time.
Thank you, brother. Super appreciate it.